And March and his son Julius put locally grown food on tables in the Fly-In First Nation. Kelly's father taught him how to grow vegetables. Now he's passing on those skills to his son.
Yeah, and I'm probably the youngest gardener in Poplar River.
Together, they help maintain more than 30 home gardens located in people's yards. Some people here even grow grapes. Kelly and Julius also take care of the community garden. They both find helping the community healing.
I don't mind it. It keeps me away from bad habits.
While a federal subsidy helps keep costs down for fresh food sold at the Northern store, the garden gives people another option. They grow pumpkins, potatoes, tomatoes, onions, carrots, cucumbers, and a local favorite, green beans.
Lots of people like beans around here. Go with their moose, that's why.
It's all part of Poplar River's Lands program. Chief Vera Mitchell says it makes a difference for people in the community.
People have little gardens that they plant stuff, but this communal garden is been beneficial. We pull our funding together so that you can do it full time.
Along with the vegetables, the community garden itself is also growing, with expansion plans in the works to make it even bigger for next growing season.
The community garden right now is about 1 acre, and we're in the works of increasing the size to 3 acres.
They're also hoping to add 2 temperature-controlled greenhouses to grow even more vegetables. Poplar River is also opening a butcher shop in this building where people will be able to get wild meat and fish.
The meat shop will be running through the fall and part of the winter.
Food from outside the First Nation comes in on the winter road, by boat, and by plane. Julius says gardens help cultivate a culture of healthy eating and food security.
I would think it's pretty good if younger generations get involved in gardening because of climate change and global change around the world right now.
He worries that could make it more difficult and more expensive to get food to his remote community, which is why he says sowing the seeds for a more sustainable future is so important. Josh Crabb, CBC News, Poplar River First Nation.
The latest version of the COVID-19 vaccine is now available across Canada. Seniors and people with underlying medical conditions are getting priority access. But as Mike Crawley reports, the challenge now for health officials is persuading those people to get another shot.
Fresh out of the box, the latest COVID-19 vaccine has just arrived at this Toronto pharmacy.
We've had a lot of people ask about it and are on our waiting list.
The updated formula targets the strain of the virus that's most dominant in Canada right now.
You're the first one to get the new one here. Oh, cool.
A big question for this latest vaccination campaign: how many Canadians will roll up their sleeves one more time?
This can fall off of people's radars as being something that's still important.
This doctor wants you to know why you should get the updated COVID shot.
The vaccines that we've had in the past may not be good matches for what's going on right now. And then the other side of it is your immunity after being vaccinated or even after a natural infection will wane over time.
With COVID vaccinations now in their 4th year, the current campaign has a different tone. Gone are the mass vaccine clinics and the widespread advertising urging everybody to get the jab.
If the government's put in minimal effort to try and get people engaged, there'll be very, very low uptake of COVID vaccine in general.
This year, Ottawa promises an advertising campaign targeting the people at highest risk.
I think shifting our focus to those individuals that we really want to protect from severe outcomes is a recognition of we're in a different place right now.
Seniors are among those at highest risk. Last year, only 2/3 of them got a COVID shot.
7 deaths a day in Canada from COVID still. It's around. It's endemic. It is not going to go away. Our future will be adapted yearly shots for flu and COVID.
Anything to keep me healthy.
If you aren't in the higher risk categories, you'll have to wait until late October before you can get the new COVID vaccine. And by that time, the flu shot will be available too. Mike Crawley, CBC News, Toronto.
Here in Manitoba, the province will launch a campaign called Every Vaccine Counts, beginning October 17th. The province says flu shots are already available through many sites, including public health offices, pharmacies, and nursing stations. Riley's back, and Riley, we were talking yesterday about, well, I was talking about going out and taking the dog out for a walk, needing my gloves. I remembered them this morning. Pulled them out of the pocket.
It's a chilly one.
Yeah, 2 left hands.
-2 in Winnipeg first thing this morning. At the airport, closer to 0 downtown, but nonetheless, still one of the chillier mornings we've had, for sure.
It didn't help, though, because I had 2 left hands with me.
Yeah.
So, I'll get it right one day.
Tomorrow will be the wind. That's going to be the major issue through Saturday. I want to start with the wind forecast tonight because even as we get into the overnight period tonight, we'll start to see some of those winds starting to kick up already. So look what happens by the time we even hit midnight here in Winnipeg, looking at south winds 30, gusting to 50, could even see some gusting to 60 through southern Manitoba through the overnight period. As we get into the day on Saturday, though, we already start to see by 8 o'clock in the morning some of those lighter blue shades starting to creep into the southwestern corner of the province. This is where we have that wind warning in place. And this is just not a little bit of a breeze that we're going to see through the day tomorrow. This is a pretty severe wind that has the potential to bring down trees, could bring down power lines, and yeah, it can blow things like patio furniture around too. So if you have any of that still out, might want to think about, especially in the southwestern part of the province, bringing that in for the day on Saturday. Just look at some of these numbers through the afternoon. Brandon seeing winds 60, gusting to 90, up to 80 through the Melita region. So we're looking at some pretty significant winds through the evening, even up to 70 through parts of the Red River Valley. As we get into Sunday, we do start to see things backing off a bit. This all because of this area of low pressure in Alberta Clipper that will skirt across the province, bringing us a good shot of rain first thing in the morning. Best chance of some rain comes later in the afternoon. I'm not talking a major rain, but certainly we are looking at some showers through the later part of Saturday. This quickly does push off, and by the time we get back into Sunday, we're into a mainly sunny sky. Winds do start to back off as we get through Sunday, and particularly into Monday when we have a bit of a drier stretch starting to set in. In terms of rain to come, I'm seeing a general 2 to 5 millimeters for the Red River Valley into the Interlake. The further west and south you go, the less chance we will see of some of that rain, but particularly through Grand Rapids, Norway House into Barons River, the chance of seeing some rain as well through tomorrow. 17 degrees, and we're looking at temperatures up to 20 even by the time we get to the middle of next week.
Thank you, Riley.
You're welcome.
Well, if you're looking for something to do tonight, Boo at the Zoo returns to the Assiniboine Park. Many areas in the zoo will be lit up with Halloween-themed decorations. It will also feature a cast of spooky and colorful characters. There'll be food, drinks, live performances, rides, and a few new attractions to enjoy. Boo at the Zoo is also hosting its very first adults-only night on October 31st. Now, the whole event runs until the end of the month and takes place in the evenings after the zoo closes. Remember, you can find news anytime by heading to cbc.ca/Manitoba or downloading the free CBC News app. We've got more coming up for you after the break. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is in France for the Francophone Summit, which brings together leaders of French-speaking countries. As Rafi Boudjikanian reports, the conflict between Israel and Hezbollah is top of mind, and a dispute between the governments of Canada and Quebec has reared its head.
Typically, the Francophonie Summit is a time for the Canadian government to lean into its historical relationship with France, with other Francophone countries that are members of the organization. For instance, tomorrow, Ottawa is expected to announce some $16 million in funding to its African members, money that'll go toward women's empowerment as well as improving access to education. This year, though, the summit is coming at a time of turmoil for one of its members, Lebanon, due to the fighting between Israel and the militant group Hezbollah in Lebanon's south. Fighting the Lebanese government says that has already claimed the lives of 1,000 people, as well as displaced around 1 million more internally within its borders. Canada's Foreign Affairs Minister Mélanie Joly is expected to meet with Lebanon's representative here, its information minister, tomorrow. She's already spoken to her French counterpart, and Lebanon was top of that discussion. Canada and France both calling for a ceasefire in that conflict. There's also a brewing domestic political dispute making its way into France. Quebec Premier François Legault is in Paris. He's been reminding everyone that he wants to see Canada reduce immigration in his province, specifically reduce the number of asylum seekers by half, saying Canada can find inspiration in some of what France does, including temporarily sheltering asylum seekers whose cases are undecided at its ports of entry. Canadian officials today shot back, telling journalists that some of what Legault is asking for is against the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms, and the Quebec government is well aware of that. Officials also said that Quebec can do more itself to control the number of asylum seekers within its province. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is expected to meet with representatives of other Francophonie members tomorrow, including Belgium and Armenia. There is no meeting scheduled with Quebec as of now. Rafi Boudjikanian, CBC News, Paris.
Montreal police have launched an investigation into a fire in a century-old building that left at least 2 people dead and others injured. Flames ripped through the building in the city's historic district. About 125 firefighters were dispatched to the 3-story building. It had a hostel on the upper floors and a restaurant on the ground floor where the fire started early this morning. Dozens of local residents were forced from their homes and received Red Cross assistance. Police say the fire is suspicious. A building under the same ownership was the scene of another fatal fire in Old Montreal last year. Anti-tobacco groups want Canada's addictions minister to resign. They say the federal government has failed for more than 3 years to regulate vaping. That includes its promise to ban fruity flavors that appeal to young people. Marina von Stackelberg reports.
Many cigarette smokers say vaping has helped them quit. But national statistics show the vast majority of Canadians who start vaping were never smokers in the first place. They are new nicotine users.
They've integrated a toy, essentially, with an addictive product. And it smells, this one is mango.
National health groups say the federal government has failed to deliver on its promise made 3 years ago to ban vaping flavors.
We have over 300,000 Canadian kids using vaping products in Canada. This problem is out of control. And the main reason they're smoking vaping products is because of all the flavors.
But the vaping industry says fruity vape flavors are what help adults quit smoking.
If someone that smokes and they all of a sudden try a mango flavor, there's no doubt that they would easily transition because it's much more palatable.
Ottawa has also promised to regulate vape designs and packaging and make it harder for minors to buy them. All those regulations were promised this past spring, but that hasn't happened. The health groups say Canada's addictions minister should resign.
The entire regulatory process has been stalled, and it was stalled after meetings with the vaping industry.
Records show Minister Yara Sachs met with the vaping lobby right as the regulations were set to be finalized. After 3 years of consultations, Health Canada now says it needs to do more. In a statement, Sachs's office says, "We have been clear, flavors are going to be restricted, but we need to do this right so that the regulations do not create loopholes that would put our youth further at risk or be hard to enforce. While the federal government consults, some provinces and territories have brought in their own vaping flavor restrictions. But health groups say that's just created a patchwork, with products being shipped across provincial borders. Marina von Stackelberg, CBC News, Ottawa.
Reusable grocery bags were introduced to reduce the amount of plastic in the environment. But there's a problem, and it's, well, piling up. Here's the CBC's Sophia Harris.
They were supposed to be a solution.
I think we have over 1,000.
But reusable bags have their own problems.
Go to the store. Oops, I forgot my reusable bag, but I tell myself, that's fine. I'll just buy some more.
Megan Bishop says she and 2 roommates recently tossed nearly 200 bags. Now they've got more.
I counted 32 and I gave up. I do definitely think the retailers should be putting in more effort in finding a solution.
Part of the onus is on shoppers to bring their bags. But environmentalists say retailers also need to do their part by adopting circular programs, like the one at this parcel pickup service. Customers return reusable bags bought here and get a rebate. Reuse company GoTo washes the bags for resale.
Some of these bags that you might be seeing in here might actually be previously loved and used.
No major Canadian grocer offers a circular bag program in stores. GoTo's co-founder suggests that's because, in part, such programs cut into retailers' profits from selling reusable bags.
Reusable bags are a huge, easy profit revenue generator.
Big grocers Sobeys and Loblaws did not respond to requests for comment. Walmart says its 33-cent blue bag is not a profit driver and that customers can send these back to be recycled or donated to charity. But that program may become obsolete as Walmart is phasing these out in favor of recycled paper bags.
But it's still single use, and it still takes energy to recycle that paper. Feels like they're really taking the easy way out rather than putting the time into building a real circular system.
This environmentalist says the only way to get all retailers to adopt circular solutions is for governments to mandate it. But that could take time, as Canada's plastic bag ban is being contested in court. Sophia Harris, CBC News, Toronto.
Israeli airstrikes in Lebanon are continuing, and Israeli officials say another key target has been hit. There are unconfirmed reports that the presumed successor to late Hezbollah leader Hassan Nasrallah has been killed. Trent Murray reports from Tel Aviv.
Well, the IDF has confirmed it did launch a series of airstrikes on southern Beirut overnight. They say they were targeting the intelligence headquarters of the Hezbollah militant group. And they also say that during those strikes, they killed a senior Hezbollah leader who was responsible for the group's communications. Now, we are also tracking some reports from the New York Times and Axios, which suggest there was another target in those strikes, Hasham Safiuddin. Now, this was a Hezbollah leader who was slated to replace Hassan Nasrallah as the leader of Hezbollah after, of course, the former leader was killed in an earlier airstrike last week. Now, we've not had any comment from either the IDF or Hezbollah about those claims. Away from Beirut, we are also seeing Israel increase its intensity on the ground and expanding. It's calling up additional reinforcements with 105 villages now in the south under evacuation orders as people try to flee the fighting. One key route they were taking to try and get out was crossing a border post between Syria and Lebanon, but Israel has confirmed it has now bombed that post because it says it was being used by Iran to smuggle weapons into Lebanon. The Lebanese government is saying because of that bombing, the road is now closed and people are fleeing across the border on foot. Yoav Gallant, the defence minister here, visiting troops in the north earlier today, said, quote, Israel still has a few surprises up its sleeve for Hezbollah. Trent Murray for CBC News, Tel Aviv.
Israel still hasn't responded to Iran's attack, in which it fired about 180 missiles at targets inside Israel. But Iran's supreme leader commented on the conflict in a rare public appearance today, leading prayers in Tehran. Crystal Gamansing reports on what he had to say.
Iran's supreme leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei called on Arabs and Muslims to unite. He said Iran will not procrastinate nor act hastily to carry out its duty. In his roughly 40-minute address before Friday prayers, he described Tuesday's ballistic missile attack on Israel as legal and legitimate, saying that it will be done again in the future if it is necessary. He also talked about the Hamas-led attacks on Israel on October 7th, describing it as a legitimate act. 1,200 people were killed in that incursion and more than 200 people taken hostage. He also paid tribute to Hezbollah's former leader Hassan Nasrallah. In fact, the last time he gave this sort of address and performed Friday prayers was back in January 2020, following the assassination of another key figure, this time a member of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard, Qassem Soleimani. In his address, not only did he call for Arabs and Muslims to unite, he said that the resistance would not end just because the leaders are being killed. And he said that everyone should, quote, strap the belt of defense from Afghanistan to Yemen, from Iran to Gaza and Lebanon. Crystal Gamansing, CBC News, London.
Well, with summer travel in the rearview mirror and winter escapes not too far off, what can Manitobans expect when they look to book their next flights with one of Canada's major airlines? I chat with the CEO of WestJet on what you need to know ahead of that. Stay with us after this short break. From airline strikes, cancellations, and delays to rising costs of flights, flying in Canada has come with its fair share of headaches over the last few years. But major airlines say they're doing what they can to make the experience not only enjoyable, but more accessible. I had a chance to chat with WestJet CEO Alexis von Hunsbreck earlier today. Here's a portion of that interview. One big thing that we talked a lot about in the media industry and as among Canadians right now is the cost of flights and that ever-rising cost. What do you guys do to make sure that those flights are as cheap as possible for people while still being able to pass on good service?
Yeah, so first of all, we try to operate as efficiently as we can, and we have acquired lots of airplanes that are fairly big, so we can distribute the cost across many seats. At the same time, there are limits to what you can do in the Canadian environment. Canada is one of the most expensive jurisdictions to operate an airline because the cost of infrastructure is so high. It's basically double of what you would see in other countries, or even more. And even if you go down to the US, it's the airport improvement fees in the US are a fraction of what they are in Canada. And all this is part of the ticket price, and that's why we are constantly calling on the federal government to overhaul the way that air infrastructure is being governed in Canada, because we actually believe for a country of the size of Canada, where air travel is actually an essential mode of transportation for the majority of the people, air travel should be far more accessible than it is. And the main hurdle to accessibility is that infrastructure is so expensive. Infrastructure, taxes, fees, security costs, navigation costs, and so on. This is just far beyond what it is in other jurisdictions. And in our view, that's the main reason why air travel is so expensive in Canada.
Because we do it. We hear it from Canadians, we hear it from Manitobans. To get anywhere in this country, that sometimes you can fly to Europe for cheaper. It's an expensive country to travel in.
Absolutely.
You guys also brought in that ultra basic fare earlier this year, kind of that no frills that comes with it. A lot of people that we heard from when that first came out, there were complaints that, where am I supposed to go without a carry-on or a check bag? And the price of check bags were going up if you had a cheaper seat cost. What do you say to those people who say it's not so ultra basic, it's not so cheap?
Well, first of all, there are people that want just the cheapest price, and when we introduced Ultra Basic, we actually lowered the prices for several million seats that we're selling by, on average, I think 12%. So that's actually quite significant. That's one of the moves that we take to make travel more affordable. But it's a choice, so no one has to take that. So if someone wants to have a carry-on bag or wants to check the bag, we have various products that are either bundled or you can buy it on top of it. But there are people that are traveling, with not a bag. I traveled today to Winnipeg with just an iPad, so I don't need a check bag. I don't need any space in the overhead bin. And why should people pay for an overhead bin space if they don't need it? So we give people a choice. And it has been very, very successful. I do realize that people complain because they saw the potential fee side of it, while they potentially took the price reduction for granted, but the price reduction is not for granted. It's only facilitated by having a product that doesn't come with any frills attached to it. And some people just want the cheapest price, and we want to serve people with the choices that they want to take.
After COVID-19, we did see some issues, whether it was with baggage, and not just with WestJet, with all airlines, with baggage problems, people getting, we saw the baggage sitting around here at the airport, people couldn't get it, lots of cancellations, lots of disruptions. There was a strike at WestJet earlier in the summer. We were talking about Air Canada even before that. How do you start to earn back some of the trust in people who've maybe lost some of the trust in the airlines here in Canada and other places in the world?
First of all, the good news is our operation is super stable again, and we are back in the top of the industry. We are the by far most reliable major airline in Canada, and that's what we have historically always been. There have also always been certain moments in time when things get difficult. So the most obvious one is when we are being hit by the Canadian winter, and then this obviously disrupts travel. We had a tough summer. We had a strike, which was obviously very, very disappointing, and did create some disruption. But then after we got out of this, we were actually hit by a hailstorm, and that was one of those nightmare things. It took 16 of our airplanes out of service in the middle of the peak season. This obviously comes with disruption, with lots of frustration, but it was also a weather event, so it was sort of outside of our control. We're trying to do everything to mitigate this and to find solutions, but in the peak summer it's sometimes difficult. Now this is all over, so we are now back to a very, very stable network, and we are investing a lot into providing this and safeguarding this stability. And whenever these things happen, we look back, we learn from it, and we always find things that we can do better, both in preventing disruption, but also managing disruption. And at the end of the day, whatever I say is one thing, but people will measure us on how we perform. And I'm super confident that our performance will be back, is back, and will stay on a high level.
Riley's back in now. Riley, we've been talking about those high winds. I know we dealt with that last weekend,
Yes.
Possibility of more power outages that we're going to be seeing here in the south tomorrow. So good time right now to be plugging things in, making sure everything's powered up, and bringing stuff inside if you can, or tying it down.
Absolutely. Things that might blow away. I was talking about patio furniture earlier. Good idea to bring that in, tie it down something.
Yeah.
Because it's going to be quite windy.
Here's your warning.
Yeah, exactly. So here's a look at your, I have the catwalking forecast for tomorrow now. Bucking the trend a little bit here. Thought we'd end on a bit of a cat note to end the week. This is Cleo, who's 11 years old. Thanks, Alan, for sending Cleo in. You can send your pictures to talkback at cbc.ca. So a chance we'll see a little bit of rain in the morning. I think a fairly slight chance through southern Manitoba. And if we do see anything in the morning, fairly short-lived, it's once we get into the afternoon and into the evening hours that we do have that better chance for rain through the evening, in particular with those west winds gusting to 70. That's what I want to briefly talk about here, because if you look at this area of low pressure here in Alberta, this Alberta Clipper actually originated in parts of British Columbia. It will move across the Prairie provinces through Saturday, with a chance of rain in the morning for Winnipeg, better chance in the afternoon. Look what happens as we get into Sunday. This moves off all the way into Ontario, into northern Quebec, and you can even see the outer bands of this on the border with New Brunswick. So by the time this system's all said and done, we'll have actually impacted 10 provinces. So that is quite something as we get into next week here. So it won't just be us that feels the effects of some of this, but certainly we're going to feel the winds as we get particularly into tonight as those winds start to pick up. 11s and 12s through Westman, south winds gusting to 50 tonight, down to 10 in Winnipeg, 8 to 11 degrees through northwestern Ontario and into northern Manitoba. Looking at single digits, even some temperatures below the freezing mark along the Hudson Bay coast, Shamattawa as well. Looking at a low of -2. We see winds picking up out of the northeast, 30 gusting to 50 tomorrow through northern Manitoba. With some of that rain starting, this particular model is giving us a little bit of wet snow in northern Manitoba. Very temperature dependent. I think if you're above zero, you're likely seeing much of this as rain, to the tune of maybe 10 to 15 millimeters for someplace like Grand Rapids tomorrow. Gusts 80 plus through the west. Could see some gusts up to 100 through parts of Westman tomorrow. Into the afternoon hours, we see that better chance of showers in Brittany. All around a very windy day ahead for your Saturday.
All right, thanks, Riley.
You're welcome.
Murdoch Mysteries kicks off its 18th season this week. Fans of the CBC period drama will be treated to a new character, one with a familiar face. Eli Glasner visited the set for this Inside Report.
Who the devil are you?
This is Mr. Albert Choi, the new inspector at Station House 4.
Versatile actor Paul Sung-Hun Lee has jumped from Kim's Convenience to sci-fi and fantasy, and now into the past.
Wonderful to see you, Paul. Tailored suit, baby, from like the 1900s.
The actor sure looked the part, but for Inspector Choi, fitting in isn't as easy.
He's American, which is another thing too, and he's also of Korean descent. Yeah. So he's a man he's a worldly man, and he's bringing all of his talents. He's had to work very, very hard to get to the position he is in because of his, position in life.
Ed Asner.
Ed Asner.
Ed Asner was on the show. He played in a Christmas episode. It was wonderful.
Oh, how perfect.
William Shatner.
Yeah, you want to go back to or through this again?
Lee is the latest renowned actor to join the show set at the turn of the 20th century, but with storylines that strike modern chords, like housing.
This was the beginnings in 1911 or 12, where actually it was important to the citizens of Toronto to have community housing. So how did that look like? How do we do it? So that is something obviously we're grappling with in our world right now.
Right. Nice to see you again. But not everything's serious. Take the episode about mole people.
There was a theory that there were people living underground. There are people who think that now.
Right. So you can explore conspiracies, you can explore flat earthers. Anything is fair game.
Anything is fair game, and it's quite fun, actually.
Yeah.
I've heard a great deal about it.
Between the fun and solving crimes, Paul Sung-Hun Lee hopes the audience takes something else away.
We've had a couple of scenes where people look at me and go, "Oh, you're the new inspector, huh?" Because it seems like they're hiring anybody nowadays. And little things like that, I think, are telling, but they're truthful.
Giving the audience something to think about as Murdoch Mysteries moves forward. Eli Glaster, CBC News, Toronto.
Still ahead, Riley Laychuk is back with our last check on our forecast and, of course, your daily lift. You don't want to miss it. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
So I'll remind you again of that wind warning that we have in place, really encompassing most of southwestern and south central Manitoba. We're looking at sustained winds through Saturday in this area in orange. 60 to 70 kilometers an hour, gusts up to 90 or 100. In Winnipeg and the Red River Valley, we're looking at gusts more like 70 or 80 as we head through the day on Saturday. Slight chance of a shower in the morning. The best chance comes through the late afternoon into the evening. 17 degrees tomorrow. Winds start northwest 30, gusting to 50 on Sunday, diminishing through the day. And then we're back into a mainly sunny, drier period as we head into next week. And temperatures back into the 20s again. Here's your weather photo for this evening. This is from Barbara, who took this in the Little Saskatchewan River Valley near Erickson, which is just south of Riding Mountain National Park. You can send your pics to talkback@cbc.ca. Some special visitors dropped by the Children's Hospital this afternoon.
CBC's Felicia Adam brings us our daily lift tonight with this super story.
Bringing joy while also raising funds.
All right, we'll watch for you coming down.
Superheroes swung into action at Winnipeg's Children's Hospital. Superman, Batman, and Spider-Man joined first responders.
Well, I'm going to go walk around, keep saying hi, okay? Very nice to meet you.
This is something that is going to bring a smile to their faces.
Priyanka Singh says the event lets patients be children again.
You'll see kids on the window right now, you know, when they see these superheroes in the window, they're just ecstatic. And this is the main goal of this event.
This is the third annual event for the hospital. The health minister Uzoma Azaguera also took part. This year, they've raised more than $50,000 for programs that provide comfort to children in care.
It was absolutely incredible to see the smiles.
Ethan Burnell was a patient at Children's Hospital, admitted when he was just 4 years old. For him, being part of the event was a no-brainer.
It's an important day for kids, but also their parents to just kind of, you know, forget and enjoy their children being children.
Burnell adds the true heroes are the patients. Felicia Adam, CBC News, Winnipeg.
What an amazing way to lift some spirits. And I love the little girl shouting, "You're doing so good."
Yeah, and just think the smiles that it puts on people's faces. And smiles are medicine sometimes.
Right? So. Something so small that can bring somebody's whole day all around.
Yeah.
We hope you...
I was going to say, I'm taking some time off.
He is. He's leaving me here.
I'll be back after Thanksgiving.
I'll see you back here on Monday. Have a wonderful weekend.
See ya.